Cada tarde, cuando el sol se oculta en el horizonte, el mundo se torna más silencioso, más vulnerable y más permisivo, como si de repente se viera regido por leyes desconocidas. Los humanos descansan en medio de fantasías oníricas, expuestos a los mensajes cifrados que les manda su inconsciente, junto a los animales con los que comparten el día a día. En las tinieblas, el campo y la ciudad abren por fin sus puertas a aquellos que suelen ocultarse. Las ratas transitan libres por la calle, murciélagos y tlacuaches se apoderan del jardín. Todos los grupos proscritos se reúnen a esas horas. La noche es el espacio para lo íntimo, pero también para desatar aquello que suele reprimirse. Por eso ha ocupado siempre un lugar fundamental en nuestro imaginario y solemos poblarla de criaturas salvajes, implacables, sangrientas. Una de las grandes verdades que la oscuridad revela es que no estamos aislados en el universo. El cielo nocturno no solo orienta a los navegantes, sino que permite observar el movimiento de los astros que conviven con nuestro planeta. Por desgracia, esto resulta cada vez más difícil a causa de la contaminación lumínica emitida por las grandes ciudades. No todos los humanos duermen por la noche. Existen seres noctámbulos que o bien no concilian el sueño y se dedican a pensar mientras se retuercen en la cama, o bien han sabido encontrar en la penumbra el escenario perfecto para la diversión y el delirio, para frecuentar paraísos artificiales o para coincidir con otros seres de hermosura marginal. La noche ocupa la mitad de nuestra vida, así como una parte fundamental de nuestra conciencia y de nuestro imaginario. Se trata de una mina inagotable de inspiración y autoconocimiento que puede llevarnos a crear o hacernos descender a nuestras más profundas oscuridades, y es justo por esta razón que resulta tan atractiva.
Bienvenidos una noche más al programa La Revista de la Universidad. Seguimos con nuestro tema noche y hoy nos vamos a Escandinavia con una escritora sueca, Karolina Ramqvist, quien nació en Gotemburgo. Ha sido colaboradora de varias publicaciones como escritora feminista, pero es sobre todo reconocida internacionalmente por sus novelas. En español la publica Editorial Anagrama. Todavía pueden ahora encontrar su libro Ciudad Blanca en las librerías y muy pronto estará disponible también en México, Cazadora de Osos. So, welcome, Karolina. I feel like it's June up there. It looks like how's the weather? Is light making you happy?
The weather is fantastic today. Everyone is out. I mean, also with the pandemic, of course, we just had some restrictions that were eased up yesterday, and the sun came out and it's quite warm. So what always happens during this time of the year is that everyone walks out of their houses and sits out on the streets, and you see so much people that you don't see normally when it's not like this.
And what is the exact contrary of this?
What
happens opposite of this situation?
Well, I mean, this kind of weather is we only have this for like maybe 2 or 3 months, and most of the year we will have darkness and this the gloominess of our space, and I think that's also why people tend to get a bit stressed right now with the sunlight, because everyone needs to get out and do everything that you can do now. Normally it's the complete opposite. It's everyone walking on the street looking down, covering themselves with these heavy down jackets and coats, and just trying to get home as soon as you can.
It's I've read this winter and also this summer that are so long and have so different amount of light and such variability in temperature affect actually the health. We have this circadian cycle that gets very upset when it's night, right?
Yes. I'm sitting now at my publisher's office, and I just met her when she was leaving, and she was talking about how affected you get by these changes, that it's actually the changes that gets you very, very tired, and it's really hard for the body to adjust all the while. I remember going to Mexico a few years back with my previous novel, to Guadalajara, and I was also going to Los Angeles and a few other places, and I got this little gadget that's supposed to help you with jet lag. And what I realized was that it was actually an invention to fight winter depression. And so you get like it looks like a small iPod or something, and with headphones, only the headphones will shine a blue light into your ears. And I used this after I got it. I used it throughout the winter because I actually found it a little bit helpful. But I mean, I looked like a mad person walking around with these blue lights in my ears. And but I think what it was doing was to sort of tamper with this circadian rhythm that we do have, and making the changes not as hard on the brain and the body.
Right. What dimension has this long winter night occupied along your life?
I think for me, I remember the first time when I realized that this is something, there's something a bit off with the darkness in my country. And I think I was maybe 2 or 3 years old. It was morning, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning, in probably December. And my mother was taking me to kindy, and I was sitting in the stroller. She was pushing it down the street. And I remember looking up to the sky, and it was pitch black with all these stars, and you could see the moon and everything. And I remember thinking that this isn't what a morning is supposed to be like. This is night, and something is wrong with this. And I mean, being young, I don't think it really affected me that much, because also we have these coping strategies culturally, that here, for instance, Christmas, you start with Lucia, which is this sort of light holiday where you kind of everyone lights candles at home, and you sort of worship the light, and you bake these buns with saffron that are yellow, that are sort of also like an homage to the sun or something like that. And so being a kid, there's it wasn't that bad. But what I realized is, like with most of these things that affect your health and I mean your mental health, it tends to get worse as you age. And over the last maybe 20 years, I've been really scared of the winter, and also autumn. Like November here is terrible because you don't have any snow. Because when we do get snow, at least before the climate got warmer, the snow would sit on the ground and sort of light everything up a little bit. But November is extremely dark and usually very rainy and terrible. And I mean, yeah, for my whole adult life, every year I've been thinking, how am I going to cope with this now this year? And I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but for me, it's been really hard, actually. And I do remember, I mean, I'm delighted that you're speaking on this subject, because I think I remember this winter, I had this recurring thought that, what if people in other places around the world, I mean, places where you have a more balanced access to sunlight, what if they knew what it's like up here? They would come and, rescue us, and in this act of solidarity, take us away from here, because this isn't, I mean, I was just thinking that probably the human species was not meant to wander this far up north, because in a way it's impossible to live like this.
They say, well, we will start organizing a rescue team for you here in
Yeah.
Mexico, Carolina. Now it's public. I'm gonna get some people around so we can
It's
go get
crying
you.
for help.
Sometimes what is not good for the body or is not good for mental health works for writing.
Mm.
Do you think what kind of effect, or is it adverse? It is good. Does this darkness have? What effect does it have on your writing work?
Mm. I think it has had a huge impact for me. I mean, there is something about writing to me that corresponds so strongly with light and day, and I mean dark and night, and these are the two phenomena that sort of motors our worlds. And there's day and there is night, and then there's day again, and there's also something in the act of writing, of being as lonely as you are when you are writing, and as weak. And I think for me, I really need the light in order to be clear headed and able to write, but I also need the night. The night, like this place where I am all alone and everyone else is sleeping. And it's a sort of place of isolation, which is also significant for the actual act of writing, I think. And also for me, being a mother of three, during my whole writing life, I have had children, and it's I've had this routine of waking up maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and starting to write. And depending on what time of year it is, it can either be bright sunlight, daytime, or pitch black night outside.
Right. There is we're going to go for a recess. I want just to ask you, so as we introduce ourselves into your new book, there is a woman writer in your book that is trying to write a story, and she goes with her table, her secretary, all around her apartment looking for light. Is this autobiographical?
Very much so, I would say.
Okay, let's take a recess and we come back so we can talk further and deeper. Well, actually, start talking about your book. No se vayan, volvemos con Karolina Ramqvist para hablar de este libro que tiene un aspecto bastante nocturno, La cazadora de osos. Estamos de vuelta con Karolina Ramqvist, escritora sueca. Se conecta desde Gotemburgo para hablar un poco con nosotros de la noche invernal, la mítica noche larguísima de los países nórdicos, y de cómo se inserta esta oscuridad tan larga en su nueva novela, La cazadora de osos. So, Carolina, can you tell us a bit, so we can get in context, who is this figure? Who is this bear woman?
Yes. She is a French noble lady. We don't know her age, but we know that she is an orphan, and she is probably, I would say, my guess is that she's 19 years old. She has a legal guardian who is a relative of hers. And what we do know about her is that she is a Protestant, and that she has the very unusual capacity of being able to read and write. And she goes along with her legal guardian, a man named Jean-François de la Roque de Roberval, who is he is about to set out on a colonial journey to New France. This is in the early 1540s, and she goes along with him. Did I say her name? Her name is Marguerite. We do know that her name is Marguerite, which was the most common name among young noble demoiselles at the time, and she's probably named Marguerite de la Roque, and she goes along with him on this journey to Canada, to the area around Newfoundland and Labrador. And on this journey, she meets someone, and she's involved in this erotic scandal that makes her guardian put her on this desolate island outside of Newfoundland. And I would say that that is where she becomes the bear woman, on this isolated island, which is populated by wild bears and polar bears as well.
Yeah, it's a very surprising survival story, right? Because she's rescued some years later and she survived. Actually, she was with a man, she had a baby, but she's the only survivor in this hostile, terribly hostile place where there are bears, but where the temperatures are reach as low as Siberia, right? So, and I can feel this relation also in choosing this character because of the latitude that you both share, you and this woman. And the writer, there is a writer. So there is this woman in your book, and there is another woman. She's a writer, and she relates to this story. She explores why she feels this relation to this story, and she tries to tell this story, right? But she's writing, and she finds herself, the writer, into the darkness of winter, and she accuses it of her impotence. And the darkness is very present in the writer's life, much more than actually in the desert island. We don't read as much in the desert island, even if we read a lot about November. You just said it was a very hard month, and I remembered reading much about November in your book. So why is this so present to the writer while she is writing about this woman in this island? Is writing in darkness as challenging as living in a desert island?
Yeah, I think this is the notion that she might have, being a writer, and seeing herself as maybe as isolated as the woman on the island. The writer protagonist, she first finds out about this story from a friend, and all she hears is these very, very small fragments of facts, that there was this young woman who came to a deserted island and who survived there, chasing bears and polar bears. And somehow I think the writer protagonist, as you said, she really identifies with this this survival, this will to survive despite of the isolation and the dark and the cold. And she is for many years not really exploring the story any further. So she's just walking with her children in this huge pram on the snowy streets of Stockholm in the dark. It's dark at 2:00 in the afternoon, and all she has to sort of she really clings onto this image of the young woman on the island. And I think that for me, writing, I did the same with this image. The writer in the book is also writing from a position of a kind of crisis. I think she's very, very, very tired, and also maybe tired of her own day and age and the darkness that she sees. It's not just the physical darkness; it's also another kind of darkness in contemporary society, probably.
I was very compelled by an initial image in the first pages this woman writer with her stroller with the kids is suddenly blocked at a zebra crossing. She cannot continue any further walking with her kids towards home. She and she needs to be rescued, right? And you're talking about the identifying parts, but this seems to me like a big contrast. Like if there was this story of two mothers, one is a contemporary Swedish writer, the other is a bear hunter, 100 years ago. One feels like fragility, very fragile, as like this, the bear woman survives alone with almost like very, very old firearms and really, well, almost nothing in a cold and terribly isolated island. And the writer, she has all the technology she needs. She's been like, she's very protected, but anyway she needs help. So is this like fragility against strength? Is this like what women have, like a difference between ages, like 500 years ago? Was it more difficult? I mean, what is this big contrast about?
Mm. Well, I really agree with you that it's there, and I think it's in a sense, I think the writer protagonist is really longing for having this kind of strength and probably idealizing this woman, as you're saying, she's hunting and she's also I mean, she's doing everything on this island that the writer protagonist is afraid of. The writer has she's starting a growing family, and I think she's very scared of all these opportunities of pain and loss that lie in having children and starting a family. And what happens to the woman on the island is everything that the writer has always been afraid of: losing someone, experiencing pain and loss. And yeah, I think a lot of her fascination and fixation with this woman has to do with that.
I think it's very interesting this way the woman writer identifies and also contrasts with this woman, right? And I would like to ask you if there is more likenesses between a woman, like what would you say, between a woman today in the cold and in the night, or are there more likenesses? I mean, are there more likenesses between the writer, the woman writer, and the bear woman, or are there more differences?
More likenesses, I do think, because what unites them is also language and words and reading and writing. Because I mean, the theory about how she actually did survive on the island is that she had brought her chignon Bible, her very, very small, tiny Bible that, you know, that these Protestant young ladies used to hide in their chignons, their headbands with the hair. And she had this, that was like the only item that personal item that she had brought with her to the island. And so, I mean, I picture that she survived by reading and also by praying and I mean, making sentences, meditating and speaking to her God, in this sense that at that time was not, I mean, that was the new way of that was the new religion, the new faith, in which you were able to talk to your God and you know, make your own have your own spirituality instead of these Catholic sacraments that were prevailing in France at the time. So I think that is something. I mean, they really share this way of using text, I think.
All right. Yeah. Do you think she went back because when she's rescued and she has to leave the bodies of her dead child and her dead husband, do you think it is because she wants to tell the story?
That was one of the main questions. It's hard to answer. I think she wanted, in a way, to tell the story because, I mean, there are three sources for this story, three French Renaissance texts um, that are the evidence that we have today that this is not just a legend, it's something that probably really did happen. And she plays a role in each of these texts. She probably met all three writers, and she probably was instrumental to them writing the texts. One of them is an actual interview with her that she gave after coming back to France. So I think she wanted the story to be told in one sense, but on the other hand, because what you want with a story like this, I mean, most of us would want her to be able to revenge and, you know, to get a vengeance and come back and become a hero. But the truth is that she probably had to continue in hiding because being a woman at the time, she was the one who had sinned. She was the one who had committed a crime. So I think she wanted the story to be told, but I think she also had to be very clever about in what sense it could be told.
We have reached the end of the program, the end of time. I just wanted to ask you if you can, like, maybe answer in 20 seconds. Why did you tell me in a mail that you were trying to avoid darkness, winter darkness, to sleep into your next book?
Because I think I use all these things that I find terrible, like winter cold. I used it in La Ciudad Blanca, and the darkness I use a lot in La Cazadora de Osos. And I think that it's a way, of course, of trying to control these terrible things that I'm afraid of, and you know, putting them into a book, turning them into an object that I can sort of put a spell on and use any way I want to. And sometimes I think it surprises me that the cold and the darkness isn't more prevalent in Scandinavian literature. But maybe it's just me having problems not letting everything from ordinary life seeping into my thing. I'm always trying to fend these things off, and they keep coming in somehow.
All right. Thank you so much for this very short talk. It was delightful. Thank you so much, Carolina.
Thank
And
you.
and I guess we'll see you here in Mexico because of this new translation and this new book. So,
I hope so.
and if not, we'll go rescue you.
Yes, please do.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias también a todos ustedes. Nos vemos la próxima semana.